Good morning, viewers. Welcome to our FTB English version viewers. A recent study examined how adults respond to weight training when followed by a meal containing the same amount of protein but with different fat content. Participants consumed either a high fat or a lean ground pork burger, and researchers measured the resulting muscle building activity. The outcome surprised the scientists, reinforcing the idea that the process of muscles protein synthesis after exercise depends not only on the amount of protein consumed but also on the type of food providing it. The findings were published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition. What we are finding is that not all high quality animal protein foods are created equal, said Nicholas Bird, a professor of health and kinesiology at the University of Illinois Urbana Champion, who led the research with graduate student Jen Zupanik. Earlier research from Bird's group demonstrated that eating whole eggs after weight training stimulated muscle protein synthesis more effectively than eating only egg whites. Despite equal protein content, another experiment from the same lab showed that salmon supported greater post exercise muscle growth than a processed mixture engineered to contain the same nutrients in identical ratios. Together, these findings suggest that whole foods generally provide stronger stimulations of protein synthesis than processed alternatives, and in some cases, the fat content of whole foods may even enhance muscle building, Burt noted too. For the latest trial, researchers applied advanced tracing methods to measure muscle protein synthesis in 16 young physically active results. To create the test meals, they collaborated with the University of Illinois Meat Science Laboratory, which carefully prepared the pork patties for the study. That took us a year because it was so hard to get those fat ratios correct, but said all the meat used in the study came from a single pig, and the researchers sent the patties up to another laboratory for analysis. Once the lean to fat ratios and other macros were confirmed, the pork burgers were frozen until needed in the feeding part of the study. Prior to the exercise and feeding portion of the body, called the study, to each a participant was given an infusion of isotope labeled amino acids, and these techniques enabled the researchers to follow how rapidly these labeled amino acids were incorporated into muscle tissue. Blood samples were also collected at multiply points to monitor amino acid concentration in circulation. To establish a baseline for muscle protein synthesis, the team performed muscle biopsies on participants both before the infusion began and again after the first 2 hours. And then we took them to the gym, Bud said, and they were wheeling that infusion pump and everything else with them. At the gym, the study subjects engaged in an acute bout of leg presses and leg extension and then returned to the lab for a meal of either a high fat pork burger or a lean pork burger or a carbohydrate drink. 5 hours after the meal, another muscle biopsy was taken to measure protein synthesis in response to the weight training and a feeding intervention. After a break of a few days, 14 of the 16 participants crossed over, switching to a different feeding interventions to minimize the impact of individual differences in muscle building responses, Bird says. Amazing, sir. Behind this exclusive report, FTV English, Delhi, Bharat.